Hello and welcome to Friday, and we have a great guest for you today, Sallieu Sesay. He is an actor. He and I met in acting class in Ivana Chubik's acting class. He's a marvelous person and an incredible actor. And let's get into this thing we call lunch therapy. I'm gonna get myself a modem. 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 Happy holidays. Yes, it's the last show of 2023. Time is flying. This is the third year of lunch therapy. Third year? Yeah, well, we started in right at the beginning of the pandemic. It has been a long and very fruitful journey. Todd Lee has been there a lot. Lalitha. We have a lot of really wonderful people in the world of lunch therapy. We call them the hummingbirds. We call ourselves the hummingbirds. And this behind me, this is a representation of the chakras. And the music that I'm playing here is one of my favorite chants. It is called Maham-Rityuna Jaya, and it is one of the most beautiful, relaxing, rejuvenating sounds that I know of. So at the beginning of the show, what we do is we take 3 deep breaths every show. And what this does is it helps calm our nervous system and get us into a more focused mindset. So if you'll join me, in through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. And let it go. One more, in through the nose, out through the toes. Let it go. Chakra Khan, Chakra Khan, Chakra Khan. One more, in through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. Let it go. Todd Lee is from Seattle, Washington, and you know what? Our guest is too. He was originally from Sierra Leone, moved to Seattle at a young age, grew up there. We're going to hear all about that. There aren't a heck of a lot of actors from Seattle here in Los Angeles. There are a few, but it's good to see another one. Lalita says, I miss Blas. Yes, Blas. Blas has been struggling with some medical issues, and we're sending him all of our love, admiration, healing vibrations. We hope to get an update on his status. Blas has been a longtime co-host of this show. In through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. Let it go. Todd Lee says, I watched Saltburn. Yuck. Wish I could get that 2.5 hours back. You know, Todd, I watched most of Saltburn. I mean, see, what happened is I watched half of it, and I was like, I don't know. I'm tired of hanging out with these rich people on their rich estate. And then Kamala watched the rest of it, and apparently he felt the same way. Missed you, Blas. Get back soon. All right. So let's get into this thing called Interview Friday with our great guest, Sallieu Sesay. All right, so here's my backyard, and I am here to introduce Sallieu. So Sallieu has been acting for over 10 years. He is a very, very dedicated actor. As I say, he was originally from Sierra Leone, grew up in Seattle. We both train at Ivana Chubbuck's masterclass. He can recently be seen in the film Manodrome, starring Jessie Eisenberg, Odessa Young, Adrian Brody. And I mean, his performance in this thing is just magnetic and powerful. And he was named One to Watch by We Audition at the Cannes Film Festival. And on top of this, he's a registered nurse and a father of 2. So let's get into this thing. Sallieu Sesay, Interview Friday.
Well, I mean, there's many different layers of masculinity, but it would be great if you could tell us a little bit more about how, like John was saying, it reflects in your character and how you approached it.
Sure. Well, I think for Amit specifically, he's got the outer shell of a bodybuilder. So on initial glance, he doesn't seem like he would have a softer side to him. But I think that softer side that he has is what allows for Jesse's character to be vulnerable. And I think that vulnerability is maybe something, Ralphie is not really expecting to feel and to come out. And I think when that occurs, it might be kind of shocking and jolting to Ralphie, which leads to, the progression of what he does next. So, yeah, I think Amit's sort of a catalyst, I would say, to the trajectory of the story overall.
Yeah. What a cool thing.
Yeah. All right.
Hey.
Sallieu Sesay, welcome to Lunch Therapy.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Joel.
Oh,
it's really
great
nice
have
to
you.
be here. I mean,
Yeah.
look, your audience may not know this. They know you probably more of as a stand-up, but as you mentioned in the introduction, we met in Ivana Chubbuck's acting class. And not knowing you, but just watching your work is really motivational.
Really? Wow.
It
Thank
really
you.
is, because I noticed that when you get on stage, everyone expects nothing but the best because you've consistently done good work. You don't really have a hit or miss. So a lot of us lean at the edge of our chairs and we're basically just eating out of the palm of your hand. And I think a lot of your guests should know that you're not just a phenomenal stand-up comic, but your acting chops are next level.
Man, that's a real compliment. I'm like choked up. Thank you very much for saying that. I really appreciate that. I work hard at it. I love it. I have been an actor since, University of Washington. I was 17 or something like that. And the thing that drives me about acting is I just think it's the greatest thing to do. It's so much fun.
And what's also
yeah.
fascinating, Joel, I don't mean to cut you off. I
No, go
apologize.
ahead.
What's also fascinating is the fact that you and I have so many similarities. For one,
Yeah.
being from Seattle, that's something I was unaware of,
Mhm.
that we discussed when you came to my home. And then
Yeah.
also, I didn't realize you went to Washington State University until you also told me that, I think, when we visited.
Oh, I went to the UW, but you went to Washington State, right?
UW, yes. So, okay, so we
Yeah.
went to rival schools.
Rival schools, Apple Cup. My brother went to Washington State too, and he's also in the medical industry as well, which I
Okay.
find amazing about you, that you are also a registered nurse, practicing registered nurse,
Yeah.
and a movie star at the same time, which I
I love.
find that to be so inspiring. You put something, I think it was on your Instagram or something, where you were like, it was your punch-in clock at work, and you
Oh,
were like dedication. And I feel like, for a lot of us that have to hold down like a full-time job and act, we need that kind of inspiration, because a lot of times we hide that. We hide that we have a job because we want to be seen as like somebody who's just living the life.
yes. No, I totally agree. You're absolutely right, Joel. I think I know exactly. I mean, I'm always posting when I clock in and clock out. Sometimes I'm working 8-hour shifts. Sometimes I'm working
Mhm.
16-hour shifts.
Yeah.
In fact, for the past year, I've pretty much worked 2 jobs,
Wow.
because it does cost to be here in LA, and
Hmm.
because with where I want to be, it's with anything. The more hours you put in at the gym, the more physique, the nicer physique you'll have, the more fit you'll be. So, we put in these hours at work so we can pay for things like classes. We
Hmm.
put in these hours at work so that we can pay for things like publicists or pay to travel, that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
it's just an investment. And investing in ourselves is something that if we do, we'll get the greatest return, I believe.
Yeah. And being an actor, which we don't realize, I think, when we get into it, it's like having your own business,
Mm,
you know? Sometimes when people say, I want to be an actor, what should I do? And they're in college, I say, you should double major in business. Because
mm,
I think it's like the skills of being a business person come in
of an
handy,
en-
because especially in the beginning, because we have our reps and we have our people that fight for us, and people that can look at contracts and things like that. But in the end, it's really you who's responsible for your career,
You're
and
absolutely right.
only you. Yeah.
You're absolutely right, Joel. I remember when I started, actually, I used to sit with an editor, and he would edit for hours, and I would watch him. And he was a very good editor. He used
Hmm.
to edit the Star Wars films
Wow.
in the 80s. And so
Hmm.
I'd watch him. He was very expensive too, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't sit and disengage. I would sit and I'd watch his keystrokes. He used Final Cut Pro. And I would watch, and hours he'd be cutting my demo reel. And I used to say to myself, one of these days I'm going to download, I'm going to purchase Final Cut, and I'm going to learn how to edit my own stuff. And I
Yeah.
obviously have.
Hmm.
Which I'm able to cut my own demo reels in different ways for different agents, different reps for different markets. My UK agent, they want a different sort of a thing cut. My agent in the Southeast wants something different. My agent in LA wants something different, or my manager. So it's just, you're paying it forward on so many levels that you may not even be able to identify initially, but it's what you're doing. You're developing character, you're paying it forward. And what I've found, it's who you become is who attracts your goals to you, whatever that goal may be. So it's the character you develop, it's the relationships you build, like the relationship you and I have. The fact that you came to my home, Joel, and drove almost an hour just to come sit with a group of people and in my living room and watch my film, that meant a lot. I thought, wow. Not only that, I think the audience should know that because it was standing room only in my house. I've got this 3-bedroom house here in LA. It was standing room only. And you and Camila sat actually around the corner near the entryway. And let me tell the audience about how amazing you are. Joel, you pulled up the film on your cell phone and synchronized the audio of the film
Yeah.
to the audio of the big screen TV in my home and watched it on your cell phone
Yeah.
while you were still able to engage with the audience, because there's some twists and turns in the film because it's a thriller, and there was some really large reactions, and it was very humbling for me to walk around, because I was kind of stepping over people, making sure people were okay, grabbing people's socks, because I have this no shoe policy in my home. So I'm grabbing people's socks, I'm grabbing people blankets, and it was such a family environment. And that
Yeah.
was so cool for me to see, Joel. I thought, wow, the support that you can get from people, like-minded people. I'm always asking God, always praying, always manifesting to be around like-minded people
Hmm.
who think like me, people who are driven, people who are determined. And they're actually few and far between.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I'm really grateful for our budding friendship.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And I've watched your work in class, and I'm just blown away by it. I just when you came into class, I was just like, who is this guy? And the intensity that you bring and the dedication that you bring is so inspiring to me. And also, when I went to your house, the community that you have, you talk about that, like surrounding yourself or drawing people to you. Wonderful people there, not just actors either, not just actors or actors and filmmakers, but like the guy that we were sitting next to was just so delightful, and just we didn't converse that much, but you just got this real feeling of community. Is that something that you have built since you've been in Los Angeles? Because a lot of times we come to Los Angeles and we're just like on our own and we got a dream.
I'm glad you brought that point up, Joel. I found, though, that it can be a very lonely journey.
Yeah.
But I think the most loneliest points are points in time where you have to do what I want to call your inner work, right? It's where you have to sit down and read a book. Whether it's, I'm a big reader, I'm an avid reader, whether it's Dr. Joe Dispenza, whether it's
Watch
U-Haul,
this.
Noah,
Watch this. Watch this.
that's it. Becoming Supernatural.
Thanks,
That is
Brody. Yeah, that's a
thank
great
you,
book,
thank
right?
Becoming Supernatural. He's got several others. He's got You Are the Placebo. He's got Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, and um, just it's that stuff you have to do to set yourself up, because it's a marathon. You got to set yourself up for the long haul. It's journaling, right? It's learning about Friedrich Nietzsche, maybe. It's learning about how to do inner child work.
Mhm.
It's listening to Marcus Aurelius was my most recent autobiography that I listened to. It's all these things you do independently, and then you set yourself up to radiate this identity. And your identity that you radiate will attract people of similar uh, thought processes and similar attributes. And that's your community. And I've realized over time that you need those people. So much of my walk has been very independent, almost to the extreme, because I can sit with myself and I'm comfortable with that. But I'm learning now to sort of kind of foster more community, because it takes a village. I mean, I'll give you one example. When I uh, when I went to Berlin in February, okay, for the Berlin Film Festival, for the world premiere of Manodrome, I flew my mother out, which is a very special thing for her to walk the red carpet with me, Adrian, Brody, Jessie, Eisenberg. And while in Berlin, I met a good friend of mine, Darren Donborough. Now, Darren is the owner of We Audition. At the time, we didn't know each other, but we
Really?
shared a cab ride to a party. I covered the tab, and then we were headed to another party. I had covered that tab just out of courtesy. Didn't want anything from, didn't even barely know much about him, right?
Yeah.
Uh, then our friendship began to kind of flourish. We chatted much of the night. We got back to LA, and he reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm having this really nice private dinner. I'd like to invite you." So I went, and he had amazing Oscar-winning producers, directors, uh, uh, writers, all kinds of folks there. It was a very elegant thing. And during that event, he gave me the nicest shout out, acknowledging Manodrome, acknowledging some of the other work I had done. Myself and also Jimmy Akimbola, who you can find in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He's one of his really good friends. So also at that party, he invited me to be a part of a selective group of actors to go to the Cannes Film Festival. So me moving always with faith and always trying to lead with love, I had already purchased my ticket to go to Cannes. This was my second
Really?
year.
Love
But that was
going
already
there.
taken care of.
Yeah.
So you have that serendipitous moment of meeting someone in Berlin, getting this invite to this party, then getting an invite to go stay with them at Cannes. So it was about 8 of us actors, and we stayed at this gorgeous mansion in Cannes.
Wow.
So when you pay it forward and you do what you feel like you should do intuitively, the stars align,
Yeah. Do
and
you,
Cannes was an experience.
I love going to Cannes. I love going to all film festivals, but Cannes in particular, because it is so it's just like the vortex of the filmmaking world. Like there's so many things go on there, and the French have such a respect for filmmaking and for acting, and it is just some of the greatest times. Some of the greatest people that I've met have been from there. I want to put up on the screen here just a sec. There is a picture of you with multiple people from that We Audition.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not We Audition. That is a kangaroo. No, a giraffe. This is just, a sideline. This is a giraffe dancing around. It's a brand new, newly born giraffe at the Seneca Park Zoo.
Look at him go. Look at him go, though.
I know. He's so excited. So
He's
excited
ready
to be
to walk.
alive.
You said you have to crawl before you walk or run.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So now I'm going to attempt to show you what I was going to show you, which is going to be...
By the way, Joel, I love watching animals.
Oh, me
They're-
too. Obviously, I accidentally showed an animal, but I love animals as well. We watch them on the show as much as possible. But this is what I meant to show, which is a picture of you with... these are other actors, I suppose, that are
Yeah.
ones to watch, right?
Yes, Gina May. Last year, she was at Sundance. Isabel Dew. Obviously, Richard, Ashley Morgan, myself, Darren. Yeah, I mean, it was the most eclectic, most kind-hearted, warm group, and we had a blast. That's me in the lime green suit, the lime green
Yeah, I love it.
tuxedo
I love it.
there. I think got a lot of compliments.
You're doing a great job too when you go to these kind of places of the way you dress and the way that you compose yourself, and like that clip that we showed in the beginning where you were doing an interview with all those people on that panel. You just have a really great energy about you, and I think that probably has to do a little bit with what you were saying about how you work on your psychology. Not only do you work on your physical body and your technique, but you also work on your psychology. Can you tell me a little bit about how you might have had to change the way you see the world or the way you view yourself in order to progress in this career?
Yeah, absolutely. I think growing up, a lot of us are raised with certain beliefs, certain traditions, certain customs. And I think that's a wonderful thing, especially being born in Sierra Leone, West Africa, growing up with traditions. It was nice. It was really nice. Now, I grew up Christian.
Mhm.
I'm very much a believer. However, I am well aware that there's other religions,
Mhm.
and other faiths, and
Yeah.
who's to say they're wrong?
Yeah.
So it's been an exploration of even other religions. I come from a background where in Sierra Leone you have a lot of Muslim people, you have a lot of Christian people, and earlier you showed a figure with one book that I've read is the autobiography of the yogi.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm sure
It's an
you've read it.
incredible book. Steve Jobs said he
Incredible.
read it every year.
Every single year.
Every
And I've
single
also
year. And it's a big book, too.
book, dude, big book. And I've also read Steve Jobs's autobiography, the one that Walter Isaacson.
Mhm.
He's also one of my favorite authors. So I've had to change things like getting rid of prejudices, which we all have, getting rid of certain ideologies. Even last night I was studying Ivana's book, and she was just explaining how your canvas can be ruined by ideologies, by religion, by certain principles, by certain thought processes. You kind of really have to wipe out everything you've been taught, everything you believe, not let it go. But for the
Yeah.
sake of developing a brand new character
Mhm.
that may or may not be in alignment with what you previously believed,
Yeah.
you have to explore, you have to study, you have to read, you have to be around other people. In Manodrome, I play a character from, the LGBTQ plus community.
Mhm.
And it's not a community that I'm very familiar with because growing up, I think a lot of people maybe hid that part of their life, or that part of their identity because of maybe being fear of being shamed or being ridiculed, that sort of thing.
Actors,
Um,
especially.
actors, yeah, especially. And so, you know, uh, I'm an artist, so my job is to tell the stories of humanity. And that was one of my most challenging roles because I really, really, Joel, had to sit down and take a serious look at a lot of things, and learn. And I invited friends of mine that I knew from the LGBTQ community over to my home, and we sat down and we ate, and we laughed because I had some really random questions to ask.
Yeah.
And we, we talked, and there were moments that were really sad. That at the end of the day, it's about that commonality of pain that Ivana discusses, where suffering is a human thing. People suffer in humanity. So connecting to that with these friends of mine was a really beautiful experience. And Margie Haber told me something once. She said two things an actor has to have: curiosity and empathy. And so being curious to learn about a community that I wasn't too familiar with, and being empathetic while I'm being taught, helped me to really develop a well-rounded character that people really enjoyed seeing on screen.
Oh, I loved it. Can we? I'm going to show a clip from it.
Sure.
Let's do that. Okay. Wow. I love this character too because it has so much nuance to it. So many you can see like your inner monologue that's going on, and it's just a really powerful thing. Plus, you look like an Adonis. What did you have to look out like a madman for this thing, or what? I mean, you're obviously a bodybuilder in this thing.
No, I love it. There's articles that I've actually referred to me just as that. I have to look it up. I'm like, what is an Adonis? A black Adonis. Yeah. So Joel, for me, my instrument personally, I kind of stay in shape to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
I try to go to the gym maybe 3-4 days a week. I do a lot of cardio on the stair stepper. I'll read a book. I'll sit there and I'll read Michael Shurtleff's book Audition as I'm on the stair stepper.
Not recommended at home. Not everyone has that kind of agility.
That kind of agility. So I'll do that.
Yeah.
And I'll do that. I'll do weights. But for this role in particular, I really had to pack on a few extra pounds of just pure muscle.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of heavier lifting that I'm used to, and cardio. Maybe instead of an hour, I'd cut it down to 45 minutes, maybe 30 minutes of cardio. Just to really understand, it's I watched a few documentaries on bodybuilders. Did my research there, and obviously you heard the accent, so I had to write a whole backstory on this guy and who he was, and what. And interesting.
Do you do a lot of accents?
I feel like I have lately, especially being that I got reps in the UK. So I've been working on my UK accent. I think I did a scene in class recently from Luther, the Idris Elba show, where I had an accent. So I do like accents. I think it's just another level, another layer to add to my characters. So I do work on accents. I've booked a lot on accents. And one thing I want the audience to know, any young person listening, or any person for that matter listening, I found, Joel, for me, man, I started booking a lot more when I just accepted who I was. When you grow up in the States and you're obviously from a different place. I was from Africa, and people knew that. I don't look, there's an essence that I have that's not a traditional Black American, African American trait. And so people know that. So when you're in school and kids can be quite cruel, they're looking at me and they're like, oh, you're an African booty scratcher.
You no.
So they say things like that to you, African. And they say things like, tar baby, you black.
No way.
And so when you're a kid though, Joel, you're like,
kids, I know, kids. I was a little fat kid, so they, made fun of me for being fat,
So Joel, when you're a kid, you don't want to be, I didn't want to be African. I'm like, nah, man, I ain't African. I'm from here. I'm from here. And it's like, no, actually, no, you're not. You're not from here. So I say all that to say that once I really tapped into my essence and who I was and who I am, I started booking a lot more. The clip from Barry, for example.
Oh my God, we got to see that.
I'm playing another African character there. Last January, I booked a Dick Wolf show, FBI Most Wanted. I played an African character there, although he was from East Africa, so that required some research
And
on
you're
the
from
custom.
West Africa, right? Yeah.
And I mentioned being Christian earlier, but this character is Muslim, so I had to learn how to pray Al-Fatiha. I had to learn how to wash, how the Muslims prep, before they pray.
Wow.
I had to learn all that. And learn the prayers just for my character and the backstory so that when I'm on set, I can really just let go and be present as the character. And so you look at 4 or 5 roles where I'm tapping into my ancestry and I'm booking and
Yeah.
I'm working.
Yeah.
So I'd say to anybody out there that's an actor listening, tap into who you are, tap into your essence and tap into your ancestry. Don't run from that. That's a natural God-given gift.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody can do what you do, Joel, in class. And I think that's why we all sit at the edge of our seats, because it's Joel Marshall. Oh my God, he's going to do something hilarious. He's going to have us, people are pounding the floors and clapping.
God, we had such a fun time. Yeah. So much
because
fun.
you have tapped into what you do best, and people know that. And what's beautiful is when Ivana gives you notes, it's like she's just kind of like, the cake is all there, the icing's there. She's just putting a little cherry on top. That's all she's doing.
I love her. She's been such an incredible guide to me. I've been really fortunate to have some coaches and teachers and some examples that I can follow in the last even like 5 years or so, 10 years, something like that. I really seem to, and I think it did happen for me when I kind of said, you know what, I'm just going to be myself. I'm going to be this guy from Edmonds, Washington, and whatever comes with that is going to be me, and really embrace that. Because I think a lot of times for a long time in Hollywood, I was trying to be somebody else. Like I'd read the breakdowns, they'd be like, handsome, swarthy gentleman, whatever. They'd have some kind of thing, breakdown of like what this person was. And even when I played Romeo, I was a funny Romeo. You know what I mean? I did fun stuff with it. And that actually made it fun for everybody else too.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's really just kind of happened to me in the last, I guess probably about 5 to 10 years, something like that I've really just said, okay, I'm going to be myself. And I want to play this clip from Barry because it is just wonderful. All right.
You could put on a movie, but those guys were screaming really loud. You could just put the volume up. If it's a Fast and Furious, you won't hear shit.
That's not gonna drown out dudes getting their heads cut off.
The one with the planes on the runway, I saw it in the theaters and my ears are ringing for days.
That Tokyo Drift, is that the one with Lil Bow Wow?
No, it's Furious 6. Came out in like 2013.
6? I didn't see 6.
That's the one where Toretto comes out the front of the plane. Like
It
when it's on fire.
doesn't matter. They're all loud.
You gotta have a legit soundbar if you want that to work, dude.
Soundbar or no soundbar. The movie is louder.
Okay, well,
I love that. So, I mean, Joe Thornton is here, by the way. Joe Thornton has been on the show. He's a wonderful actor. He said that he lost 20 pounds walking the picket lines. He was out there every single day walking the picket lines. So I want to send out a shout out to Joe Thornton there. Yes, but that Barry clip, hilarious. And do you do comedy? I mean, is this something that you do very often? Because you really nailed it.
Well, thank you. I lean very heavily towards drama. Interestingly enough, I think though when I was in college, I did do improv with an improv group, and I do remember my father and my mom, actually both of them, coming and watching. And I just remember that being a very happy moment and a very joyous time because they were both there and they were both laughing, and it's very precious. Very, very precious.
The great thing about it, the secret about comedy, is that it's just drama. It's very serious. It just happens to be, a lot of times heightened serious, like almost too serious, or the dialogue is so ridiculous, but you're taking it very seriously. Like there's really no difference between comedy and drama when it comes down to it. It's all just, objectives and going after them, pursuing as best you can. And
Well, it's something I definitely
yeah,
want to try to explore more in the years to come. It's something I want to explore. I don't want to shy
yeah,
away from it. I've seen a lot of the greats I think can do both. I mean,
yes,
you look at where Will Smith is at with his career as far as starting on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and where he's at now. You look at Jamie Foxx, where he started the shows, the stand-up comedy he's done to where he's at now. Um, a lot of actors have made that transition. Steve Carell.
yeah,
I think it's a great place to start because I think a lot of times when people get off from a long day at work, they don't want to come home to a drama. They want to come home to a comedy and
yeah.
laugh and decompress.
A lot of
So,
people watch shows and movies for different reasons.
hmm
Some people like me, I do watch a lot of dramas, and I
mm,
also like to be scared. I like to wonder what's going to happen next. I like things to push the boundaries and maybe
mm,
like do something totally unexpected.
mhm,
So it's not, and it's my profession. So I look at it a different way. But then when I talk to like my friend Neil,
mhm.
he's a lawyer. Things are very dramatic for him already in his life and high stakes. He just wants something funny. And whenever I
Right.
recommend a movie to him, I'll recommend like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and then he'll never let me live it down because he's like, "Why did you do that to me?" So we have to know that people are consuming these things in different ways,
Right.
and
Right.
not always looking at them the same way we are. And comedy is the greatest possible thing in times like this, when there's war and there's all this crazy stuff going on in the news that we don't understand and things like that, and we can't figure out why
Right.
people are thinking a certain way. But all of us can come together and laugh.
hmm
You know?
Yes, it's a universal language. Laughter, love,
Yeah.
joy. It absolutely is.
You feel like to me a very sophisticated person. And I don't know if that's because you're very serious or because you take your craft very seriously. Do you have trouble laughing at yourself ever?
Um, I wouldn't say I have trouble laughing at myself, but I would agree with you in that things are very serious with me because
Yeah.
I also run a business. I also have multiple homes.
Yeah.
So I have a LLC, and I'm also a father. You
Yes.
know,
How do you
um,
do all this stuff? I don't even understand. There are like three of you?
sometimes I feel that way.
Did you hire like two doppelgangers and like they're like a team?
How would you, man? Sometimes I feel that way. I'm just like, how do I'm I, through God's grace. That's all I can really say.
I mean, you got home from work at 8 o'clock in the morning this morning. Am I right?
I did. Got home at 8. By the time I winded down, it was probably about 9. So slept from about 9 to 11:30.
Wow.
So 2.5 hours. I got up. I'm loving that I'm here doing this now.
Yeah.
And
Thank
then
you.
whenever I finish this, absolutely, my pleasure. When I finish this, I'm going to get ready for work. I work 3 to 11, and then 11 to 7:30,
Wow.
8 o'clock tomorrow morning. So 16 hours.
How do you
Um,
keep your energy? What are you doing?
so I'll tell all my secrets. I'm not the type
Okay.
of person to hide
Hmm.
what I do
Yeah.
because I feel like it could help somebody. It could save a life
Yeah.
at its most extreme point.
Yeah.
I take these things called adaptogens. They're vitamins, they're supplements.
Hmm.
They decrease cortisol levels, stress hormone levels. SAMe, that's spelled capital SAM lowercase e. It's a supplement, 5-HTP. And then I drink a bunch of water. I drink a lot of green tea. And then meditation is huge. It's something I haven't been able to do much of lately,
Hmm.
but it's something I love, Joel. I'm telling you, when you can really see the vision, because the Bible says without the vision, the people perish. But when you really see your vision
Hmm.
and then you align that vision with emotion, man,
Yeah.
there's power in that. There's so much power in that. So it's those things that a lot of inner work, that journaling, that meditation, that all that stuff fuels me. It puts gas in my tank. Looking at my children, my son and my daughter. I got quite emotional for the Q&A. You were there for the Q&A, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Or yeah, so you were there for the Q&A.
For the screening. Oh no, we had to leave. We missed
Oh
the
man,
Q&A.
no. okay. So Joel, I ended up getting quite emotional. I sat here and
Yeah.
all of my friends and close friends and actors and people in the community were asking me questions about why I go so hard. It was Sean Duke. Shout out to Sean,
Mhm.
one of my best friends. He said, "How is it that you manage to run your business? You work 2 full-time jobs. You fly to see your kids every 3 to 4 weeks. You look like his words. He's like, you look like you stepped out of a bodybuilding a
Yeah.
competition."
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, because my kids are making the biggest sacrifice, the biggest I love being a father. I love when I used to put them to bed when they lived with me, reading books to them, praying with them, giving them everything I wish, my father maybe would have given me. And
Mhm.
my mother wasn't able to because she was working, trying to raise 3 kids on her own as a single parent on a minimum wage salary. So because I can't do these things for them on a more regular basis, my work ethic is different. There's not much room for error. Except, of course, when I'm on stage, I'll make mistakes and get notes and work to improve. But as far as like in my daily life, I just did my monthly reflection last night during my lunch break. I sat there and I looked over the month of December and I really reflected. So I think that's where the work ethic comes from. That's where the seriousness comes from. The fact that deep down, like I am a foreigner, I am somebody who immigrated to the States. I did watch my parents work. As my dad used to work at Domino's Pizza. I was just journaling
Oh,
about this for my inner work, actually, that I'm doing on a scene
yeah.
with swimming with sharks. But my dad was worked at Domino's Pizza, and he had a young 4-year-old son. That was me. He had a young 2-year-old son. That was my brother, and he's in a completely different country, and he has to figure out how to do childcare and how to feed us and how to pay bills. And so I watched these foreigners struggle, and I won't even call it the struggle, but I'm used to the work that has to be put in to not only survive but to excel. And then my mother came to the States, and then they had a janitorial business. And I remember being many summers, Joel, I didn't get to go to summer camp and I didn't get to go to sports camp. I was working as a janitor at 11 years old, 12
Wow.
years old, with my
Wow.
parents every summer at night, Joel, working at restaurants, Red Robin, cleaning, moving tables, vacuuming, sweeping, mopping. I wasn't doing the things that the average 11 or 12-year-old, 13-year-old does in their summers, 14-year-old does. Um, I'll tell you one story. I remember walking into a restroom in this restaurant in downtown Seattle called FX McCroy's,
Hmm.
and it was just after New Year's Day, around 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. We showed up there to clean, like we always do. And I walked into the restroom, Joel. There was vomit everywhere.
Oh,
Somebody had just
no.
vomited everywhere.
Ugh.
And I'm stepping over the vomit, grossed out. And I look at my dad. I look back. My dad walks into the bathroom. I'm thinking like, Dad, save me. Like, am I gonna have to clean this here? And he looks at me and he just like, what's the problem? Kind of look he gives me.
Whoa.
The man's like, what's the problem? And so I walk into the bathroom stall. There's a used condom.
Oh.
There's a heroin needle,
Oh.
and then more vomit. And I just remember, Joel, I cleaned that bathroom up, man. I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
So that's the background I'm coming from. So when I come from that background, people wonder how it is I own 2 homes now. My parents owned one. I should be able to own a couple. My
Hmm.
parents had a business, Ever Ready Cleaning Services. My company is Ever Ready Housing, LLC.
Wow.
So I should be able to do these things. I look at the year I've had, being in New York in January, shooting the Dick Wolf show,
Hmm.
in February, Berlin, being
Yeah.
in Cannes, and then
Wow.
taking a little vacation for myself finally to Italy,
Wow.
going to the
Yeah.
Amalfi Coast, so work ethic is something that, and the seriousness of it is something that is just sort of innate because it's the way I've been raised.
Hmm.
But I do have a very funny side. However, my funny side is a lot of interior monologue about things that kind of go on during the day. And I do
Yeah.
crack myself up during the day. So that's the levity,
That's funny.
you know.
I wanted to ask you also about, you had said that you meditate, or you were doing a practice of meditation. What do you get from meditation that you don't get from anything else?
Oh gosh, what a great question, Joel. Really good question. You know, from meditation, it gives me a sense that it's already happened.
Hmm.
And so, in all these books I read, they say you don't know how you're going to get to point B when you're at point A.
Yeah.
All you have to know is where point B is. And so, meditation gives me a sort of a guiding light. It strengthens my intuition.
Hmm.
It strengthens my intuition. It's
Hmm.
what it does. Even and my resolve, my confidence in knowing what it's going to be in the end. You know, when I meditate, I typically have a few images I see. One image I see is being on the red carpet with my mother, and I'm very emotional, and it's hard for me to interview or answer these interview questions. And so when I'm asked a question, I just kind of direct the question towards my mom, and she's standing there and she's like, you know, my son's always wanted to do this since he was 18. And she's getting emotional, and she's like, you know, he never gave up. He just kept pushing and kept working, and now we're here, and I'm very proud of him. And she's getting emotional, and then I'm emotional. And it's that vision I see. And then it's being called up there. My peers are listed, and then my name is listed, and being called up on the stage as an Oscar winner, and walking up there and holding that Oscar in my hand and thanking my kids for, you know, allowing their dad to do this, for giving me the space and the time, and thanking my mom, you know. And that's what meditation gives me. It gives me that.
That's a lot.
Re-
It seems worth it. I got to go meditate right now. Because no, I think that's true. I think that's true, right? I mean, it's totally true.
It's happening.
It's
it fills
happening, right? Some of those things have happened already, right?
They've happened. I've walked the red
Yeah, it's like a
carpet.
memory now. Now you got the next one. What's the next image,
now
you know?
I'm working towards the next one. And it's things like, I mean, man, I have the audacity to do some wild stuff, Joel, that a lot of people kind of look at and are like, I even surprise myself, like, what the hell am I doing sometimes? But I believe I'm on the right path, and it all works itself out. You know, there's some things that I've done for my career. Most recently, I'll give you one example. I just got my equity, my equity UK.
Really?
I'm now a member of the equity.
Really? Stage theater.
Literally, just it's right, but it's not just theater. It's also so equity.
It's like SAG and equity are together in the UK.
The equivalent of SAG. Equity in the UK that's their union.
Oh,
Equity in New York, the AEA. My application is in there also being processed. So equity over there is more theater, because SAG-AFTRA covers the whole United States for film and TV. And over there, it's theater. And I love theater. I started in theater.
Yeah.
When I was at Washington State University, that's where I started. I fell in love with this.
You did the Laramie Project, is that right?
Wow, the Laramie
great work to do.
As a freshman, man, I had my audition material was from a soldier's play?
Probably.
One piece was from a soldier's play.
Joe Thornton actually did that play, and I went and saw it here in Hollywood.
Wow.
The Soldier's Play.
I love that. And then the other audition piece I used was from a guy who, I can't remember the play anymore, but my acting teacher, Brenda Hubbard, shout out to her. She gave me this piece. She said, I want you to work on this piece. It was this man who was married with kids, had contracted HIV from his homosexual lover, and he was dying in his deathbed, and his mother was telling him, pray. And in the monologue, he's saying, pray. I've prayed. I've prayed to your God. I'm not praying to your God anymore. And I hadn't had any classical training. I hadn't had any training yet at the university. But Joel, I tell you what I had, man. I went over that material like crazy. I had people in my dorm. I'd invite them to my dorm room. And I'd have my friends sit there through my monologue.
Really? Really?
I'd have them sit
Bold,
there.
man. That is
and
bold.
It is bold, but I
love
took those
that.
risks at the very beginning. And what happened when I walked into that audition, that's when I realized, oh my God, this is what I'm meant to do. It was like an out-of-body experience, Joel. It was like I was back here as an auditor watching this monologue go on. And man, the tears were flowing. I really knew what I was going after in that audition. And I ended up booking, it was a small cast, but each cast member played 5 or 6 different roles.
Right. That's
So
about, it's about the murder of Matthew Shepard and
Shepard in Laramie,
Wyoming, and the whole, there's like interviews, actual interviews from people in the community. And then it's all put on the stage, sort of like Studs Terkel's Working, where they've taken actual monologues from actual people and then you act them. Incredible. And so you played several different characters.
Several different characters in the Laramie Project. And interestingly enough, I acted with a woman named Delandra Williams. And Delandra was an actress who I admired because she was a no BS kind of woman. Really? I just remember one time people were kind of goofing off and she said, "Can everybody just please shut the F up?" And shout out to Delandra. Delandra ended up moving to Los Angeles earlier than I did. The very first film I ever booked was called Elvis Lives, my first feature that we shot up in Northridge. I show up to set. Guess who I meet on set? Delandra Williams. And guess who Delandra is in proximity to the project? She is the writer of that project.
Really? Yes.
And that was something like, I don't know how many years. That was like a 10-year gap in there, Yeah. And now she's written this thing, Elvis Lives. I'm playing a detective on there and somebody who works for the FBI working with Elvis Presley. And then fast forward to Manodrome, who is the executive producer on Manodrome with Felix Culp. Riley Keough. Riley Keough happens to be the granddaughter of Elvis Presley.
The granddaughter of Elvis Presley? Really?
And an amazing actress. The first time I ever saw her in a show, it was the Girlfriend Experience on Starz. She plays a high prostitute who's also a college student going for her law degree. And I thought, golly, this is an amazing show. This actress is phenomenal. She's taken all the risks. And then turns out she's executive producer in Manodrome. And that opening scene where that woman's breastfeeding a baby, that's Riley Keough right there.
Really?
That's Riley
Interesting. Keough. You talk about envisioning things and then having them occur. And you mentioned this book. This is something, Psycho-Cybernetics. You had mentioned this somewhere along the line, and I was like, what is that again? And it was something that I read maybe 3 years ago, but it's stuck in my head. I mean, It's just kind of a part of me now. But it's a really incredible book. Is this where you got that kind of idea of like manifesting things through just kind of seeing them?
My very first book and my very first introduction to the idea of manifestation and self-help, I'll call it, was a book by Orison Swett Marden. Orison, Swett Marden, Marden, Orison Swett Marden. The book was called He Can Who Thinks He Can. That was the very first book I read in college, and I thought, holy cow, this is mind-blowing. Joel, I thought I'm onto something here. Because that book propelled me, man. That book helped me get through nursing school. Because, Joel, full disclosure, I didn't always want to be a nurse.
Really?
I did. No. And my mother and I went back and forth, and there was some resentment there because I was an 18-year-old kid, Joel, who just wanted to act, man. I just wanted to be on film and TV. If I wanted to be on stage, I wanted to go to New York and do theater. That's the guy right there.
That's the guy. He's got quite the stash, too.
Quite the stash. He's got a fascinating story. He wrote a manuscript that was something about 800 pages. He's quit his job, moved to this area of town, rented a place, upstairs rented, wrote this 500 or 800 page manuscript. The place burned down, and he had to start over again from scratch.
No, you mean lost the whole manuscript?
Whole manuscript started over from scratch. This guy is one of the pioneers. So this guy, I believe, may have even been before Napoleon Hill.
Yeah.
So these authors like Napoleon Hill, Maxwell Maltz, the whole idea of psychocybernetics, quantum physics is something I've also gotten into. Epigenetics, as Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about. These are all things I've gotten into that I incorporate into my life. Vision. That's why you see people called visionaries. You're a visionary. You see the vision, you hang on to that vision, and you make that thing happen. You know.
So there's a lot of people that will say like, oh, I tried visualizing things. It doesn't really work. What do you think the difference is between somebody who can manifest things and somebody who's just like, it doesn't really work for me?
Well, I'll tell you what, Joel. With anything, there's a frequency at which you have to do things. If I go to the gym, Joel, once a month, my results aren't going to be that great. Yeah. If I go to the gym once a week, 4 times, 5 times a week, now we're talking about a higher frequency of practice. A higher frequency of practice will get you a higher frequency of results.
I like that so much, because at first when you said frequency, I thought of like waves, sound waves, and and then it became actual frequency. How frequently are you willing to do this thing? Yeah, exactly.
And it's not fun when you first start. It can be uncomfortable to sit with yourself, because we live in a social media world where those sound bites and scrolling, and you get likes and you get all this stuff, and it feeds the endorphins. But we have to get away from that sometimes and unplug and get back to, who am I? What do I want to accomplish? And what am I willing to do to accomplish these things? And part of that is sitting with yourself for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and just visualizing and seeing what it is you want and believing that you have it and experiencing those emotions. It's not just, earlier I mentioned like the red carpet, the Oscars, and crying.
Yeah.
It's also humor. It's also my mother making a comment in our language where she's like saying something funny about how, my mother always pokes jabs at herself. And it's me visualizing or hearing her poking a jab at herself while we walk the red carpet. And it's me laughing hysterically by myself.
Yeah.
It does something. It does something for you as an individual. It does something for the universe, for the gravitational pull, for what you're putting out into the quantum field, for what you're putting out as a vision, as a prayer. It does something, man, I swear. And it brings it to you. Even Joel,
I think that's true.
Joel, as practical as, let's say, I was at a party recently with some friends from class, from our studio. And we're all having a blast. I'm with the guys. We took a big group picture. We're having a blast. And at some point during the night, I realized, I have to go home. Where others want to continue to party, and there's nothing wrong with continuing to party. However, I've got an interview at CBS Radford that I have to go to. I don't want to show up there tired and groggy and not able to construct my sentences clearly. I've got an interview with TMZ I have to do. I got to prepare for that. I've got an interview with this podcast and this magazine, and I've got to type this thing up and answer these interview questions. And so I don't have the luxury of just staying out really late and partying.
Yeah. And that's taking care of yourself. That's taking care of yourself. A lot of times, this is the thing I think that's interesting about Maxwell Maltz, is he used to be a plastic surgeon. And so he noticed that when he changed people's faces, they still thought their face was the way it was. Like if they made their nose smaller, they were like, my nose still looks big, because it was up here. And so that's where we limit ourselves, and we don't even realize we're limiting ourselves. The easiest example is people that say, like, I'm not good at math. Well, you can turn that around so fast with your mind and all of a sudden be the best person in class at math. But most of us live in that box. And so as people like us who maybe we come from a place where there weren't a lot of actors. We have to do a lot of work to envision ourselves on the screen. We really have to. It has to be internal, and it has to be, some people might say it's selfish sometimes even. But you have to do that work or you're never going to achieve what you want to achieve.
Man, that's a fact. That's a fact, Joel. Like, I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're going to have to end the thing here because it's been an hour, but this has been a blessing to have you on the show. I really appreciate all that you're doing. I do want to show people your workout fitness reel just because it's inspiring. I'm just going to show a little bit of that. And one of the things that I like about it is on your IMDb, you have a fitness reel. You have a reel of yourself shooting a gun because there's a lot of roles where you have to like know how to hold a gun, you know, and safely and all that. And also riding a horse, which is just your marketing is so spot on because you look at it, you're like, oh, we could use this guy here, 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 here. You got the pictures to match, you got the reels to match. So this is just an example of this. And it's, I mean, it's impressive. It's impressive. Enough of that. Enough of that.
Right on. Thank you.
That's so good. I mean, it's so great. Wow. Yeah, and so people can see, oh, he can box, he can run, because a lot of times you're going to have to run over and over and over again. And it's like, here it is.
Joel, man, you know, you bring up such a good point. The last point I want to make is this.
Yeah.
When I was in Africa, I just shot Manodrome in 2021. We wrapped on the 30th of December, and I was in Sierra Leone. I landed on New Year's Day. While in Africa, I got a call from producers that I'd worked with on a film to do a show. It was a recurring role that I have to audition. I'd worked with them, so they knew my work ethic. The one thing they also said was they had looked at my social media. They saw that I was working out regularly.
Yeah.
They saw that I did box. They saw that I was a nurse. They saw that I was a father, and they said, you know what? The role's yours. We've worked with you before.
Whoa.
Have all those elements. And it was frightening, but it's just a nod to marketing. Marketing, mentioned that this is a business. It's show business.
Yeah.
You mentioned marketing earlier. You couldn't have been closer to the truth, Joel. We got to have both. It's a duality of show, the craft, and the business. So we'll leave the audience with that.
All right. Now we're going to dance it out. We got a great dance break for you. It's one of my favorite bands in LA. They're called Main Squeeze, and they're doing a James Brown cover song. So let's do this thing. Thank you so much for being on the show. Look forward to knowing you in the future. Let's get this thing going. Dance break.
Thanks for having me, Joel.
All right.
Fellas, I got my candy stripes and I'm feeling all right. Are you with me, y'all? Yeah. Can we get down for a little bit?
Let's get down.
Maybe like a sex machine, wheeling and dealing?
Yeah.
Can I count it off? Yeah. Should I count it all the way off? 1, 2, 3, 4. Get up, get on up, get up now. Stay on the scene like a sex machine. Get up now. Stay on the scene like a sex machine. Get up. Get up now. Stay on the scene like on phone. Stay on the scene like a sex machine. You got the feeling, show us your bone. Get it together, right on, right on.
All right, everybody, thanks for being here.
Get
This
up
was a
now.
great interview. Thanks, Joe
Stay
Thornton.
on the scene
Thanks, Sallieu.
like a sex machine.
Thank you, Main Squeeze.
Get up now.
And we'll see y'all next week on Lunch
Stay on the
Therapy.
scene like a
Happy
sex
New
machine.
Year!